Did you know the March on Washington, one of the most iconic events in American history, was strategically designed by a man whose name you might not recognize? Bayard Rustin. He was the unsung hero behind the scenes, the mastermind who orchestrated the entire operation. But why don't we know more about him? Stay with us, because you're about to discover the untold story of the brilliant strategist who shaped the civil rights movement, all while overcoming personal struggles that would have crushed many. This isn't just another historical account. This is the story of a man whose vision changed the world. So, sit tight, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss the powerful journey of Bayard Rustin. Bayard Rustin was born in 1912 in Westchester, Pennsylvania, at a time when racism and segregation were deeply ingrained in American society. From a young age, Rustin was influenced by a blend of religious teachings and the ideals of nonviolence, which he adopted from Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy. His early years set the stage for a life that would be dedicated to social justice and equality. Rustin was a gifted orator, but it was his strategic mind and quiet resilience that set him apart. As a young man, he joined the Fellowship of Reconciliation, one of the nation's first pacifist organizations. It was there that he honed his skills in organizing nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience. But what really made Rustin stand out was his unwavering belief that real change came not just from words, but from carefully planned, large-scale action. By the time he became involved in the civil rights movement, Rustin had already made his mark as a leader. But his relationship with Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the most pivotal connections of his life. The two men would come to share a vision of peaceful protest, but it was Bayard Rustin's organizational brilliance that would ultimately make that vision a reality. Stay with us, because this story is just getting started. You might be surprised at what comes next. As the civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s and 60s, Rustin was right in the thick of things. But his role was often behind the scenes. Rustin wasn't the front-line leader like Martin Luther King Jr., but that's exactly where he preferred to be. He didn't seek fame or glory. He wanted results. In 1963, when the March on Washington was just an idea, it was Rustin who made it happen. He didn't just envision it. He meticulously planned it. From the logistics to the funding, to coordinating with political leaders, Rustin's strategic mind made sure the march would go off without a hitch. And it did. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. to demand jobs and freedom. It was the largest protest in American history at the time. But here's something you might not know. The march almost didn't happen. Internal conflicts between civil rights groups threatened to derail the entire event. It was Rustin's calm demeanor, his diplomatic touch, and his ability to bring people together that saved the day. He understood the importance of unity, and he made sure the march would represent that. It was his vision and execution that turned a bold idea into a historic reality. Don't go anywhere, because what happened after the March on Washington is just as significant. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. But Rustin's path was never easy. Though he was instrumental in shaping the civil rights movement, his personal life often brought him into conflict with both his peers and the public. Rustin was openly gay in a time when homosexuality was not only illegal, but widely condemned. For many in the movement, this was a controversial issue. Rustin's sexuality became a point of tension. Some leaders even pressured him to step aside. Yet, despite the personal and political challenges, Rustin never wavered. His commitment to justice remained unwavering. And though he faced tremendous discrimination, he didn't let it stop him from being the architect of change. Even when some of his closest allies questioned his place in the movement, Rustin continued to work quietly but powerfully behind the scenes. He wasn't just fighting for racial equality. He was fighting for the rights of every marginalized group, including LGBTQ people. His lifelong advocacy for social justice and human rights set him apart from others in the movement. He knew that true freedom meant fighting not just for Black people, but for all people. It's this sense of equality that drove him, despite the personal toll it took on him. So, what happened to Rustin after the march? Stay tuned, because his story doesn't end there. Bayard Rustin may have stepped out of the public eye, but his influence never waned. Even after the March on Washington, his work continued. In the years following the march, Rustin remained deeply involved in the fight for civil rights, labor rights, and global peace. He was a tireless advocate for policies that aimed to lift up the most vulnerable members of society. Rustin also became a key advisor on domestic and international issues. He worked with political leaders, including President Lyndon B. Johnson, to push for legislation that would address racial inequality and promote economic justice. His impact was felt far beyond the march as he continued to push for a more just and equal society. But despite his ongoing contributions, Rustin's recognition remained limited during his lifetime. It wasn't until years later, when he was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama, that his contributions to the civil rights movement were truly acknowledged. If you think that's impressive, wait until you hear how Rustin's ideas continue to shape social movements today. Keep watching. As Rustin grew older, he remained a passionate advocate for human rights, even in his later years. He was deeply involved in advocating against the Vietnam War and continued to speak out about issues of racial and social injustice. But his personal life was always a part of the conversation. Rustin remained unmarried, and his romantic relationships, though often public, were rarely acknowledged in the context of his work. What's incredible about Rustin is that he never let personal attacks or adversity stop him. He refused to be anything other than who he was. A man committed to peace, equality, and justice for all. He lived his life unapologetically, and in doing so, became a trailblazer for generations to come. Though Rustin passed away in 1987, his legacy lives on. His work inspired countless activists, and his strategic brilliance continues to influence movements for justice today. So, what do we take away from Bayard Rustin's life? It's a powerful reminder that the fight for justice is never easy, and that true leaders often work behind the scenes without seeking recognition or praise. Rustin's quiet but impactful leadership helped change the course of history, and his legacy still reverberates today. If you're inspired by Bayard Rustin's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get more untold stories from history. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Rustin's life had the biggest impact on you? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and always remember, history is shaped by those who often remain unseen.